Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about in our little brief discussion about targets is developing term sheets. Once the target says, yes, I am interested, you got to think about, how am I going to sell it to them? What's the deal going to look like? And that's where you start pulling out all that stuff we talked about way back when we were doing the overview. And we were trying to figure out, what's the payoff for the target under various scenarios. You use that to develop the term sheet. Basically, the reality is this. Most deals are based upon what other people have done it for deals, because people have this sort of market mentality and they want to have a fair market value, and a fair market value is what happens in a large number of transactions about roughly the same thing over a period of time. If they start to coalesce, cohere, narrow down, then there is a fair market price. So you're trying to figure out what the fair market price is for your technology. There's a variety of resources on the web. There's people you can go to hire, including us, that will help you figure out what a fair market price is. That's the key to the term sheet. Where's the fair market price? What's been done before? If you can find a benchmark, a deal that's been done before for something similar, then you can work from there to show how yours is different and the pricing should be over here rather than over there. So that's the first piece in developing a term sheet. The second piece is dealing with the risks. There's clauses that deal with indemnification. There's clauses that deal with warranties, things like that. Basically, the answer to how you work those out is this. Give the risk to the party that's best able to control it. In other words, if the risk of liability, product liability, comes from manufacturing, then the manufacturer should bear that risk, and they should indemnify you, if you're just a technology developer who's out licensing, against the risk if their manufacturing is bad and it blows up. On the other hand, if you say, look, I've done an extensive search and I believe that this is patentable, then you need to bear that risk. You don't want to guarantee that you've looked at everything in the whole cosmos, but you want to say, to the best of my knowledge, I believe this to be the case. So you're going to bear that risk, because you're in a better position to determine whether this is different or similar to other technologies which have shown up in the patent literature, since you're the one who really knows what's going on. So we're going to allocate risk to the party best able to bear it. Now, there may be financial issues on whether that party is able to bear it. In that case, we may do transfer payments. In other words, we'll adjust the royalty rates, we'll move cash back and forth, we'll do upfront fees versus running royalties, or not as much running royalties because we're giving some upfront fee. And those provide transfer payments, so cash moves back and forth to allow the party to manage the risk, either buy insurance or check it out or mitigate it, whatever. But basically, developing a term sheet is about managing risk and figuring out where the fair market value lies. That's all there is to it, really. Once you get the term sheet, be aware of two things. First, a term sheet is an offer. So if somebody says, I love that, thank you, shake my hand, let's write something, sign, boom, you just did a deal. You may not have meant to, but you did a deal without taking it to the lawyers. So never make your term sheet a firm offer. Always say, here's a suggestion, here's a term sheet, but we reserve the right to take this to our lawyers to look at it when we get done negotiating it. The other thing that's real important is always start high so you can negotiate down, because the other side is starting low so they can negotiate up. I once had a friend in graduate school who was an economist. He took a class in business. He dropped it the first day. We said, Fernando, why did you drop the business class? He said, it's always the same, buy low, sell high. Well, remember, buy low, sell high if you're offering a term sheet to another party. So you really have two term sheets. One's what you think is the fair deal to settle on, and the other is what you're going to start out by offering. Okay, enough on term sheets. I'll be back to wrap this up in a second.